Hey everybody, welcome back to Odd and Untold. This is episode 13. Hopefully not unlucky episode 13. We are already having some technical problems though. My buddy Scott Perry is joining me tonight and we can't get his video to work. So very strange, not paranormal. And that's going to be kind of the theme of the show tonight. Just strange things that have happened to us that are not necessarily paranormal, but just kind of make you scratch your head. And just wanted to say too, I'm drinking a beer tonight. I don't know if you're drinking, Scott, but I'm drinking this is from Treehouse. It's called Doppelganger. And I know that's I don't know if you've seen the news about that lately, Scott. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. No, I have not.
Yeah, they were saying that not everybody, but a lot of people have doppelgangers in the world. And if we do, they share DNA with us, which is very strange, but not that strange if you think about it, because they would have to look like us. So has anybody ever told you have a doppelganger?
Thankfully, no. Not to my knowledge anyway. Is that kind of like we're talking about like Doctor Strange and parallel universes type thing, and Earth 636 and that whatever? Is that kind of in the same idea? Or
yeah, basically, doppelganger, it basically just means like body double. It means, someone else out there looks just like you or similar enough to you where people kind of do a double take. And it's funny because I've actually had people tell me this for years, that they saw me somewhere, or that, were you on the subway yesterday? I could have sworn I saw you, or I saw a guy who looked like you, but he had the full beard instead of the goatee, or, things like that. Like just, people sent me photos from like other Facebook. I've actually posted a few on Facebook where it's like, it looked just like me, but it wasn't me, because it was like a guy with a dog on his chest. And I'm like, that's not me, but it looks a lot like me. And I don't know who this guy is.
So that's present here and now, not, like we all have doppelgangers like in other parts of this world.
Yeah.
The present world as we know. Huh?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I have heard that, but I haven't, again, I've never had anyone say that to me, but it is kind of weird though, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because my best friend John, he was on the show episode 7, he used to tell me all the time, like back in high school and college, that he was seeing me places. He's like, I know you weren't there. He's like, I know you went to class, but then I'm like on the other side of campus and I'm like walking past you, or I get on a train and there you are. One of the weirdest ones I had was I had taken a new job. This is back like in the late 90s. I had taken a new job, and one of the women who had interviewed me, I had met with her obviously before I got the job. And then my first day there, she's trying to tell me this story about how she saw me up on like Lexington and 57th the other day, because I started on a Monday. And she's telling me, oh, I saw you Friday night. You were on Lexington and 57th, and I was waving at you and you ignored me. And she was kind of laughing about it, but she was also a little bit annoyed that I had ignored her. And I was like, well, Friday was like, we were celebrating my birthday and we went to the movies, and I was in Union Square. And honestly, at this point, I told her, I was like, I have never been like on foot beyond like 42nd Street in Manhattan. I've never been north of that. So for me to be on like Lexington and 57th, I was like, it wasn't me. And she's like, no, it was you. I saw you. I was waving at you. You looked right at me. You ignored me. And we went back and forth for a while. And I was trying to tell her, like, no, this is like a doppelganger. Like, it's not me. But she was insistent it was me. And I swear the whole time I was at that job, she was a little annoyed at me, because I think she thought that was me and I was ignoring her. But I was like, no, I was with my wife. I was with my friends. I was like in Union Square. I was like on 14th Street. And I was like, I've never even been to Lexington and 57th at that point. I mean, this is going back like 20 years or so. But yeah, so I've had people. So I thought this was a cool beer to pick for tonight, because we're going to be talking about some bizarre stuff that's not necessarily paranormal.
That is kind of odd. Obviously, you were born and raised and grown up. There's the demographics a lot different than where, like Josh and I up here, so in the city of however million people, I could imagine that happening. It'd kind of be really weird out here in farm country if some, what I mean? In such a small populated area, if that started happening, then that would be really freaky.
Yeah.
With population isn't anything, where you grew up and where you live now, even, if that stuff starts happening up here, I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, definitely. But I've had people tell me they've seen me. And when it wasn't me, um, from my best friend to my wife to family members to, yeah, like this woman who I worked for. And she was just like, it was you. And I was like, it
No
wasn't me.
kidding.
And we just had like this big, not a fight, but she was definitely a little miffed at me.
No kidding.
And
That's
it wasn't me.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Um, so yeah, now we're having some issues with the video tonight. You can't get on video. Your laptop seems
I,
to be
you know,
working,
I,
and
I'm not, I am, first of all, I'm not computer savvy, but I did everything that we did the first few times that we did this, pressed all the right buttons. It comes up with my name. Camera light comes on, but there's just no video. Everything's plugged in. I don't have a separate plug for anything. It's a laptop. So everything, nothing's any different than it was the last time we spoke. So,
yeah, yeah,
like you said, maybe it's the 13th episode thing.
exactly. Some bad luck. Um,
That's what we'll say it is anyway.
exactly,
We'll blame it
exactly.
on that.
And you're like in the three timers club now. You're this is your third time on the podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Third time's a charm, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
gets me some frequent flyer miles on here. Well, like I said, with all we get to what we have to talk about, I'm sure we can do quite a few of these things here and
Yeah, and
still not scratch the surface.
no, and there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, and most of it's going to be Bigfoot related. But the idea I had for this week's show is really because I posted one of my previous episodes online, and you'd kind of mentioned that you had some weird stuff happen to you that was not necessarily paranormal.
Yeah,
And I have a story for later too that I thought of for this show, but I want to hear some of your stories.
yeah. It was like you were, about someone falling down the stairs. You heard the thump, thump, thump. That type of thing. I remember when I was a kid. I grew up out in the country, and not a lot of neighbors. It was quite rural. This had to have been mid to late 70s. My father worked second shift. He worked at 10 or 2 to 10. So my mom, and it was just mom, my mother, and I, and our dog. And I remember one night it was snowing, and when my father would come in, like most dogs would go absolutely nuts. You'd hear the door, and our dog would just start barking and getting all wiggly, and how they get excited and see. And so we heard what we thought was the door closed, and I remember my mom going, "Daddy's home," and she's had already been barking and runs out there and bark, 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 bark. And, time went on, a few minutes went on and nothing. So I remember getting up, I was probably 10 or 12 years old, maybe, getting up and going out there, and the dog sitting at the door, at the front door, barking, and he's not around, and so we had the outside light on, and it was snowing, and I remember looking out, out front, no footprints, no nothing. But if it was the fact that we all heard it, including the dog, okay, if it was just one of us, or or sometimes dogs, as bark at ours all the time. I can't say bark at nothing, but they bark at what we have no clue what they're barking at.
Right.
It seems to be nothing. But that was just something that always kind of stuck with me, and it jarred my memory listening to, one of your last episodes there, that had happened to us. And just, I remember looking out the window, turning the outside lights on, and no fresh tracks, no. And I believe even we ended up calling my father, and he hadn't left from work, because he didn't work. He worked 5-6 miles away. He wasn't that far away from our home at the time.
Okay.
And he hadn't even left yet. But it was just weird enough where that had happened, that we all, all heard it, all aware of it. And it stuck with me for, probably 45 years.
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. And incidents like that always interest me when you have like multiple people experiencing it, and like even an animal, like, yeah, like you're saying, like dogs will react to stuff that we don't necessarily see or hear, but you'd think that if there was an animal outside, you'd have seen some tracks or a trail,
Right.
or something, especially in the snow. You're up in the
Not just
country.
fresh snow. That was it.
Yeah. So it almost does sound like a ghost, like a ghost story. And I
It does.
appreciate you not
Yeah,
jumping to the paranormal conclusions. Again, I think a lot of people, if there's something they can't explain, it's automatically a ghost. It's automatically
right.
a demon or a poltergeist or Bigfoot or, whatever, their focus is. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that does relate a lot to my staircase story because for years, I never really thought of it as paranormal until my father had said that about my grandmother. And then and even now, I'm still not saying it's paranormal. It's just like an interesting correlation that my grandmother fell down the stairs and this, I heard this, but for years I'd never thought it was paranormal. So it's interesting that your take on this is not immediately like, oh, a ghost came up to the door. It's just
No, I was more probably thinking at the time, like someone in around that shouldn't have been,
mhm.
uh, it would have been a whole lot worse had we seen tracks.
Yeah.
Knowing it wasn't my father, then that would have been, that would have been a little different. But that just, it kind of stuck with me. It wasn't traumatic. It wasn't, exceptional. It was just kind of one of those things that I'll probably never forget. And, just enough that, that I'll always, something like your past stories, ignites that memory. It was like, oh yeah, I remember, it was just kind of weird. And another one that I have, which we've talked about, we talked about, around my family.
Mhm.
It was 19. What was weird? Right, I'll go into this for into a little backstory. We first got out on our own. And my first wife and I had rented a house in the village of Fultonville here in upstate New York, and it was very old, built in the 1700s. They had done a bunch of major constructions they put a new river bridge to cross the Mohawk River here where we live. And the original plans were to take this house. They were going to widen the intersection for truck traffic. State Historical Society had stepped in and said, "You're not you got to, whatever you got to do, you got to go around." So our landlady at the time lost a lot of land, but the house itself was still to this day still stands there. So you would think if there was going to be any kind of creepy stuff ever going on, and we lived there for 7 years,
Wow.
nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, and this house was, where the plumbing and the electricity were added after the fact it was built. I mean, that's
Wow.
how really old, big, old, beautiful, beautiful house. And we rented half of it, which that half was like a quarter of the size of the whole house. We had 2 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms upstairs, down, weird design because obviously it was so old, but never once did we have anything ever happen there, and I always figured, well, if anything was ever going to happen, that would be the place. Never felt uncomfortable. And then we had our son Sean, and he was born in October of '93, and never, kid slept like a rock. I mean, he was the best baby ever. After that 2 o'clock feeding, boom, we were so fortunate with him. So then, anyway, that was fast forward to the summer of '95. Our landlady she didn't evict us by any means, but she had a relative that she wanted to move in there. And we had been so comfortable living there. I mean, our rent was cheap, and it was actually the shove we needed to get out, to get stuff going on our own.
Mhm.
So we moved out of there in September of '95. And in that time, we ended up in the process of building our own home. A
Okay.
new development had sprung up here down in the village of Fultonville, and it was a big contractor out of Orange County. Bought a bunch of farmland up here, and started making a really nice development. So anyway, we ended up falling into a great deal where we were getting a brand new house built turnkey for us. So at that time, my father was a manager of it was a townhomes in the village of Fonda, and so we were able to get a place to live there until our house was being built. Well, while it was being built, so we lived there from August of 95 until February of 96 when our new home was finished and we moved out. So anyway, like I said, so the first couple of years of Sean's, my son's life, I mean, that old house, never an issue. Well, anyway, this temporary apartment that we had rented while our home was being built, right in the village of Fonda, and they call them townhomes, and they used to be really nice, not so much anymore. But at that time, they were a pretty decent place to live. And it was 2 bedrooms, upstairs, down. You had a living room, kitchen, bathroom downstairs. Upstairs, you had 2 bedrooms and another bathroom. And the master, you had your master bedroom. And then the second bedroom, we had used that for Sean's crib, for his room. And that was 95. He was 2 years old. And while we lived there, well, from the get-go, when we moved in there, and like I said, he was always such a good kid. You put him in his crib, he went to sleep. He slept all night. He would not sleep in that room, in that townhouse. He screamed. And it was so abnormal because he wasn't a crier. He wasn't a screamer. He wasn't fussy. He wasn't, I will say he was the perfect baby. And all the time we lived there, the 6 months we lived there, he would not sleep in that room. I mean, you put him down there and you tiptoe out, you think he was asleep. 3 minutes later, he's bellowing like a banshee in a bear trap. He was just flat out screaming, which was so uncharacteristic. So we ended up biting the bullet, and he slept with us. And I had friends saying, boy, you got to be careful because, before you know it, he'll be 16 and he'll be bringing his girlfriends home to sleep in bed with you and all that. It's like, yeah. So anyway, February of 96 comes, and our new home is finished, and we move in there, and that's a 3-bedroom raised ranch. And he moves we put him in his own room, and not an issue, nothing. Something was going on in that place, in that room right there. I don't know if, they say small kids can sense stuff or see stuff. I don't know. That's what I've heard. But all I can tell you is he never screamed like that, never carried on like that ever for anything, except when we tried to get him to sleep in that bedroom for 6 months.
Yeah, and see, that's interesting. So I was going to ask you that, and I figured you'd get to that. But I think a lot of skeptics would say, well, the child's in an unfamiliar environment. Kids will do that. They'll be restless. But it's interesting how in the first house he was fine. Second house he's screaming bloody murder, and then in the third and final house he's okay again. So yeah, like what happened?
Right, and then we even thought that with having him sleep with us for 6 months was going to be a weaning process, that was going to be, we had started something, that we couldn't stop. And, we were worried about that, concerned that, we can't have him sleep. You just can't have you can't have it every single night. Kids hear storms, they get scared, whatever. You had to come and sleep with it. But every single night, we got to do something. And the very first night we spent, he slept literally like a baby forever on. With never an issue. I don't know, I do know because my father, like I said, my father was the manager / landlord of those apartments, because we lived out in the country. As I told you, as a kid, we had a house fire in January of 85. I was a senior in high school, lost everything.
Oh my God.
And everything. By the grace of God, these apartments in Fonda had just opened up. Okay. And the only ones they had opened up like in 83. So they had all been open less than a couple years. My aunt and uncle were the first ones to rent that particular apartment that we moved to, and had got a new place, and that had not been filled yet. We were able to get that into that apartment. And then we got in there, and my father was of retirement age at that time. And the owners had asked him, okay, well, here you go. Here's free rent. You be landlord, maintenance manager, that type of thing, which my father absolutely adored doing. So that's how we were also able to get that, to live in that apartment across the parking lot from where my parents is, in those townhomes, rather quickly, because there was an open vacancy that we were able to get, fortunately, while our house was being built.
Right.
So, I had lived there, well, from 85 to 89, and there was a lot of older people lived in there at the time. And there were a couple deaths in there. And, I look back on it and I'm pretty sure there was an elderly lady that lived there that had passed away in that particular apartment. Now, if that had anything to do with it, I don't know. Other than that, nothing weird happened. We didn't hear, see, smell, absolutely nothing except for the deal with Sean, something not agreeing with him. So he would not sleep in that room at all. And like I said, he had slept other places at in-law, at my parents, at my in-laws, he had spent the night with aunts and uncles, and different people had watched him spend the night, and he was just, a very easy baby, he wasn't, particular about anything. We were just really spoiled. I can say that because we were spoiled. He was such a good baby. And that's why to this day, it was still very, very odd, that whole situation with him not wanting to sleep in that room. If he was sensing something or he could see something we didn't, we talk about it and wow, that's he don't remember any of that, obviously.
No.
But we have told him about that several times and have talked about it when we have our little, freaky conversations of weird stuff going on and that. And he'll be listening to this, and Sean will know exactly what I'm talking about when he hears it.
Sean.
And
yeah.
It was just, that's just one thing right there that will always be, I got no explanation for it, whatever. I mean, maybe he just didn't like the place. That could very well have been. I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird, and again, this is not a story I was planning on talking about tonight, but this reminds me of something when, my wife had cats, and she was living in the city when we first started dating. And, you live in the city, you do a 2-year lease, you move, you do a 2-year lease, you move. So she was constantly moving, and she had moved with these cats once or twice already. And, every new place they would kind of come in, and how cats are, they kind of check things out, or any animal really, a dog, a cat. And they would get comfortable within, a few hours. And at one point she had moved in with me into the apartment in Brooklyn that I've mentioned a few times on the show now. It's the same apartment where I had the staircase, the thing falling down the staircase sound. She brought her cats there, and they freaked the hell out. They did not like it. We had one cat, the younger cat, she just ran to the back windowsill, and she would not move off it was like almost like as far as she could be away from that staircase as possible in the apartment. She just went to the back windowsill. And when I tell you she was there for probably 3-4 days, maybe even longer, she would not come down off of there. Except to like go use the litter box, and then she'd run back up there. She wouldn't eat. The other cat, who was a little bit older, he was a male. He adjusted a little better, but he was still very he would just walk around and be very aloof, uneasy. more uneasy. Yeah. But more so than cats are. Cats are just aloof anyway, but he would just be, he was a little uneasy. And it was weird that the younger one, she just sat on the windowsill, and if my wife went to go comfort her, she would hiss, and it's she did not want to be touched. She would just kind of lash out and hiss and claw. And we just left her on the windowsill. We're fine, stay there for a few days. And my wife knew the history of the apartment, and even she was just is she sensing something here? And I'm I don't know, because she had moved before, and the cats were fine. Cats come in and, they're a little uneasy the first couple of hours, but then before you know it, they're napping somewhere. And this cat just 4 or 5, maybe even 6 days was just sitting on the windowsill, would not explore, would not come down, would not eat. And then we moved to Staten Island. We bought a house in Staten Island, and they both came in the house, and they're both fine. They're both just oh, we love this place. And, again, a little uneasy at first, unfamiliar, but within a few hours, they're just napping on the couch, and the movers are still there, It's
animals, dogs and cats, because that's all I've ever had, but they can sense things. Now, can they see the dead? I don't know. All right. Some people are sure they can. I don't know. They've never told me, but I know they can sense stuff, and just their sense of smell is incredible. We have skunks from time to time go through our neighborhood, and it could be dead of winter with the house closed right up, And our oldest dog, who we lost in that last October, about a year ago, he would, I mean, he would get up in the middle of the night and he sleep with us. He would sleep at the end of the bed. He'd get Ella, and down the little pet steps, he'd go out into the living room here, just going nuts in the dark. So I'd get up, not knowing. And as soon as I opened the door, you could smell the skunk. It was like, all right, that's, that's what he's going crazy with.
Right.
Now,
Right.
his little brother, who we still have, is still with us. He's not so much with that, but we do have one particular neighbor who lives across the street, and him and his dog take a nightly walk from time to time. We live on a dead end street now, so all this kind of walk. Well, him and his little dog will go out, and he can be sitting right here again, windows closed, air conditioner running, TV on, and he'll be dead asleep on my wife's, right on her hip, sleeping in the chair, and he will just bolt and start bellowing. And it was like, it was like, what are you doing? And I'll just happen to stand up, turn around, and there goes the neighbor and his dog walking up the street. Yeah, they can listen. I know they can hear and they can sense. Like I said, I don't know. Can they see this and sense the dead? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. And
I got nothing, but I do know they can sense the living. That's for sure, that we don't see. And so who knows?
yeah, and that's the weird thing, because anybody who's got a pet, dog, cat, whatever, it's like they'll just look at things sometimes. They'll look up in the corner of the room, and it's kind of freaky.
That's the freaky thing, because our older pup used to do that too. He would come out here in our house, into our kitchen. We got a curio cabinet, kind of closet in the corner, and he would just sit there and bark at that. It was like, you're freaking me out. Stop it. There's what are you barking at? And then after you said something to him, it was like he'd go, haha, turn around, and he'd run back into the bedroom. It's like, what are you doing? Just enough to get the hair up on the back of my neck. Knock that stuff off. Come on. Because the house we live in now, we moved in here in April of 2017.
Mhm.
And like I said, we used to live out in the country. We had a big place, over 2 acres of land out there. And as our kids grew and everybody left the nest, it was too much. I mean, we didn't need that big of a house. We didn't need that big of a yard. So we downsized and moved closer to where we work, closer to town. And, it was the right thing to do, smart move just at the stage we were in. And the house we live in now is a nice little house. And I say little house because if you take the breezeway and the garage off it, it's tiny. It's almost a tiny house. But the family we bought it off from, our neighbor, his parents had built it. His father built it, wired it, lived here forever, and built houses like they don't build them anymore. I mean, we've seen the Bones doing some remodeling, and they just don't do it like this anymore. It's like, holy cow, this is built solid bones in this old place. But my wife says to me one time, we're just talking, because we'd get mail from, they're an elderly couple, and I believe she had passed first, and then he had passed, and I don't know, we were one of our walks up the street. I remember her saying to me, he died in the house. And it was like, she read, must have found the obituary or whatever.
Oh, okay.
and it was like, he passed away peacefully at home, and it's just like, great. But I mean, it's just, that really doesn't bother me. And we've been here, 5.5 years, and I'm going to knock on wood just in case, because I don't want to, but everything's been pretty normal that we can think of here, as far as nothing that I really know of that have made us scratch our heads. I don't want to say that, but then if it does, we got a heck of a podcast for future shows.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm definitely going to let you know there, but it's just, I don't know. I don't, thinking about that stuff makes me try to think where the universe ends. So I don't drive myself nuts with trying to dig too deep, putting too much thought into it. I'm open-minded. Yeah. But I don't,
it's a rabbit hole. Yeah.
I got one rabbit hole in Bigfoot, and that's enough. I don't need to go down any other ones to drive me nuts. And then I do have another ghost. Well, it is a ghost story, and it's not mine, but it was, when this happened, quite a few years ago now. And I had a best friend, absolute best bro in the world. When we lost him to brain cancer, right as we were moving in here, we lost him, and he was diagnosed in February of 17, and we lost him in June.
Wow.
And I was very fortunate. I mean, we did everything. You know, him and his wife and my wife and I. We were the fearless foursome there for a lot of years, and he had gotten sick. And fortunately, while he was still, I want to say, coherent enough, he did get to visit here. He knew we were moving. So, you know, we hadn't moved in yet, but I took him for a ride, and he got to visit our new place, this new place before, we moved in. So that kind of makes me happy. And he was just, boy, one of a kind, no nonsense, no bullshit, flat out. Tell you just like it is, and yeah, I mean, everybody knows somebody like this, and this is my guy. But if he told you that he had dinner with Santa Claus, he did. Okay, if he had said something, I mean, he was so rational, so logical, open-minded, but still. And this story, I love telling this story because it's a favorite of mine because of him, and how he told it. But I don't know, him and his wife were at a restaurant down in a local mall down in Rotterdam. It was a 99. They were at a 99 restaurant. Now, Mike was diabetic, so if he didn't eat on a regular basis, he'd get real funky headed, and that type of thing. So they were down there shopping, and this was before the mall. This mall's a ghost town down there now. Basically, there's nothing in that. 99's still there, but it's basically not what the malls were even 10 years ago.
Right.
Malls are kind of dying out.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, they were doing some shopping, and he was starting to feel a little, lightheaded and hungry, knew he had to eat. So him and his wife went to 99. So they're sitting in there. The place isn't overly packed. And they order their dinner. And they bring, the waitress brings their salads first and sets everything down and says, okay, enjoy. I'll be back with your entree in a little bit. So they're sitting there. He goes, he's unwrapping his napkin, putting it across his lap. And they give you the salad dressing in a little bowl on the side, gets it on the side.
Mm-hmm.
This damn dish slid 8-10 inches across the table.
Wow.
So everything's going through his mind a million miles an hour. He goes, the diabetes is really screwing with me. He goes, because I am seeing things, and he's just staring at it. And he's thinking, he don't know what to say. He thinks, that he's seeing things. And he just happens, raises his eyes up and looks at his wife, and her eyes are as big around as silver dollars. And he goes, did you see that? And she goes, yeah. So he spent the rest of the time trying to debunk it. Was there water on the table, bumping the table, hitting the table was solid as a rock, fastened to the floor, those cushy benches and everything else. He's on the floor underneath the table, banging on it, trying, spent the whole rest of, the dinner trying to figure it out. Well, what the hell, and couldn't figure it out. So they finish their dinner and they're sitting there, and the waitress comes, and asks, how was your meal? Everything good? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he goes, yeah. He goes, can I ask you a question? And she goes, sure. He goes, you ever have weird shit happen in this place? She taps him on the shoulder to scoot over, sits down next to him. She goes, yeah, people feel like they're getting touched. People's, seeing stuff out of their corner of their eye. I guess they had a Christmas party where they shut the restaurant down, and it was just for employees. And they took a picture, like the Christmas picture for everybody. And everybody's looking at it. Well, come to find out there was someone in the picture that nobody knew.
Wow.
Now, whether that's true or not, I'm just what he told me, what the waitress told him.
Right, right.
Now, if you knew my friend like I did, all right, he wouldn't lie, if you put a gun to his head. I mean, it's just, and he don't make up stuff. He would just, no need to make up stuff. And who knows what that was, but that's my personal best ghost story. And it didn't even happen to me, but that is something that, at least to this day, I'm sure if you talk to his wife, will tell you that no idea what that was all about. But he tried everything to debunk that for the rest of the meal, and he goes, Scott, the table was bolted to the floor. He goes, I couldn't even. He was a big dude. Mike was a very big dude too. And he pounded on the table, yanked on the table, couldn't even get the glasses, the water glasses to slosh any water. It was just, everything was just, the table was dry as a bone. It wasn't sitting on a bead of condensation. It was just whatever. But that's probably the best ghost story that I could, personal ghost story that I can relay that I had nothing to do with me, but I love telling it.
Yeah, yeah, and I love stories like that because there's so many stories where people experience something and they immediately go to the ghost explanation and say, "Oh, so I couldn't find my keys one day, and it's the ghost in the house. Oh my, and I'm like, are you even trying to find an explanation? Are you like, why are you jumping right to that?" So I always love hearing stories of people who like don't want to accept that at first, who are just like, all right, it's got to be something else. Like there had to be water on the table. It had to be
when he called me when they got home that night, he was all out of sorts and beside himself. And, it was just like I said, all right, bro, relax, take a breath, tell me what's going on. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it was just, it was crazy.
it freaked him out.
It really did. And that's the best I got. I mean, talking about when you're just saying losing your keys.
Yeah.
Years ago, I lost a paycheck. To this day, we still don't know what happened to my paycheck. And that might be a little of those, we got a thieving paycheck notes. But back when we lived home in our place before we moved here, I worked in a sawmill for a lot of years. And on Friday, we got our checks. I would fold my check in half and put it in my pocket like I did for the 13 years I worked for the place. Nothing was different. Got home that Friday night, couldn't find the check. So when I get home on Friday night, first thing I do is put my clothes in the washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done that before, washed my check. You know what I mean? So I thought that was what we did. Nope, not in there. The pants were still in there. Backtracked everything, went back down to the sawmill at night, my wife and I, with a flashlight, looked every square inch of literally retraced every one of my steps. To this day, it never showed up. I do this all the time. I lose stuff constantly. It always shows up. So this is probably 16, 17 years ago.
Wow.
And never, that paycheck never showed up. Never showed up. I had to go Monday. My boss had to write me another check, and it never did show up. Well, that was kind of weird, but I'm not saying that's anything just other than weird. But I guess you could say that was weird. When you said losing your car keys, that's something that never. I don't even have anything. I lived, was it 3/10 of a mile from the sawmill where we lived. So, you go out the end of my driveway, you look down the road, you can see the driveway to the sawmill where I worked. So yeah, it wasn't like I went anywhere else in between there. But like I said, to this day, and then when we moved in 2017, it still never showed up. So who the hell knows? That was very weird. Again, I'm sure there's a rational explanation for it, but never ever did find it.
Yeah, and that's, there's all sorts of just weird coincidences in life and just things that happen that aren't necessarily something you'd automatically say that's paranormal, but it'll be weird. I mean, there are times where I'm home alone, and I'll put something down and I remember putting it down in a certain spot and I don't leave the house and no one else is in the house with me. And then I go back later and it's gone. And it's like, now it's over here, I'll find it later and it's over there. And it's like, did I move that? And just like my brain for that moment just kind of was not processing it. Like it just has zero memory of it. Or did something else move it, or like glitch in the matrix? Like there's all sorts of like weird things where you're just like, again, not paranormal, but it could just be psychological. It just be one of those, like, was my brain on autopilot? Did I just move it over here? And you think back and it's like, well, why would I have done that? Like, take the car keys for an example. You come home, you put your car keys on the counter, and then you go to the bathroom, you go fix yourself something to eat, you go watch TV, you go back for the car keys that are supposed to be on the counter, and now they're, somewhere else. And it's like,
they're on the table. Yeah.
Right. Like I didn't need my car keys. I wasn't looking for my car keys. Why would I have moved them? and I have no memory of it. I have zero memory of it. And people talk about that stuff all the time. And again, some people are like, oh, it's the ghost in my house. And I don't necessarily buy that. It's just a weird thing that happens. And, maybe it's just our brain, we've all done that too. Like you drive a long distance and then sometimes you're just like, I don't remember the past 5 miles, I've just been driving.
Oh yeah.
And
We,
I can't remember those past 5 miles. And I don't
that's
know how
funny.
I'm alive right now.
Well, and that just jogs another memory. Just saying that, I told you we had season tickets for the New England Patriots for a lot of years, total of
Mm-hmm.
18. All right.
Wow.
And back in the early days when we would go, when it was cheap to go, and a lot of fun, I'm saying back in the early to mid 90s,
Mm-hmm.
we did it every week, unless it was it was an away game. So we didn't, and we did it so much. Sometimes you kind of enjoyed, good, this week's an away game. We don't have to go, because it was 207 miles from our driveway here to the old Foxborough Stadium
Oh
in
my God.
Foxborough, Mass. And I mean, back then gas was 99 cents a gallon. The tickets were $15 and it was $5 to park your car. When we got rid of it, it was $195 a ticket. Gas was $3.50 a gallon. It was $60 to park. So we did it, back when it was quite affordable. But we would make that trek on the Mass Pike, and there was times where it felt like between 3 and 3.5 hours for traffic. That's what it was. But there's times where traffic was very light, and it would be over 4 hours.
Right.
Or times where if the track was even heavy. Jesus, we did this in just under 3. And we started laughing about that. The time warp, and it was the same drive every single Sunday. You know what I mean? It wasn't, but when you're doing it, 3 times a month or whatever for a few months during football season, it was funny, just like you said, wow, we just go through a time warp. That was, weird. Why did it take so long today? Traffic was wasn't bad at all. Or, traffic was crazy. And, were we just going with the flow? I don't know, but like you said, it's just we've always used to talk about that as a time warp thing too, weird, just weird.
See, and that jogs a memory for me because my wife and I had a weird time jump. Shortly after we moved to Staten Island, we went out one night for a walk. I didn't have my son for the weekend. I forget why not. It was just maybe he had like a family, get together with my ex-wife or whatever. But my wife and I went for a walk, and we walked from Martling Avenue. If anybody wants to Google this, it's Martling Avenue and Manor Road up to Forest Avenue. And it's probably, like a 15-minute walk, maybe 20, with my wife walking a little slower than I am. I have long legs and I tend to walk fast. But it's a quick walk. And, we went up to Forest and we meandered down a few blocks, and we left the house probably about 8:45. And, we walk home, and we were just talking the whole night and enjoying the night. It was a beautiful night. And as we're approaching home, she's like, hey, why don't we order a pizza? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. It's kind of late and I don't want to cook. And, I pulled out my phone to kind of go to delivery.com, and it's like 12:30 at night. And I'm like, there's no way we were walking around for 3 hours. Like it's a 20-minute walk up there. We kind of went around a couple of blocks once or twice and then headed home. And we left the house probably like 8:35, 8:45. It was before 9. And now it's like coming up on 12:30. And I'm like, the pizza place is closed because it's 12:30. And I'm like, how is it 12:30? And she's like, no way, it's 12:30. She's pulling out her phone, and we're like, how did we spend 3 hours? Like, there's no way we went even far enough. We couldn't waste 3 hours, 3.5 hours if we tried, walking where we walked. Like, we'd have to walk it probably 3 times. But we were just flabbergasted, and we were just sitting on the I remember just getting home and sitting on the stoop, and we're just looking at each other like, where did the time go? How did we spend 3 hours? And again, is it something where our brains just shut off? Time flies when you're having fun. But we never really stopped walking, and we didn't really walk very far from the house. So we're within probably a mile and a half of the house. So it's like, how did we waste 3 hours if we never stopped moving? We never sat down. We kind of just did a loop. But it took us over 3 hours. It was really weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's weird. Time goes usually generally fast enough as it is without having to have that happen.
Exactly,
You
exactly.
know?
We thought we were getting home. We thought it was like 10:30. We thought it was like 10:30. We're like, okay, we were meandering. It took a little bit of time. But we like, oh, we have plenty of time to order a pizza. The places don't close till like 11 out here. We have an hour at least, and it's like 12:30, and we're like, where did the time go? So very
Yeah,
strange
that,
stuff.
that, that is stuff, and you don't, you know what I mean. And a lot of times you don't think much of it until you take time to look back on it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, that is just kind of weird, and it's
Yeah, we would chuckle about it from time to time. It would just pop up in our memories. Like, remember the time we walked to Forest Avenue and back, and it took us 3 hours, and it really should have taken us like under an hour. And even with meandering, maybe an hour and a half. Like we should have been home by 10:15 tops, 10:30 absolute tops, and we were getting home at 12:30. So we're like, all right, conservatively, where do those 2 hours go? We can't
yeah,
account
that's
for them.
crazy.
And again, I'm not saying it's paranormal. I'm not saying we were abducted by aliens, but like, did something in our brains just shut down and like we just don't remember it? Like when you're driving to Foxborough.
Right? Yeah, you just get in a zone of some sort, and who knows? It's just crazy. But
Yeah,
seen anything in the sky of late? Crazy stuff.
me, no. And I've been looking. I haven't really seen anything though.
I
It's
sit out there every nice night. I always go out. Even got a new pair of binoculars for my birthday, just sky watch.
oh, nice.
What sucks is every time where we live, all right, anytime there's a celestial event, it's cloudy here. You got a chance at the Northern Lights, it's cloudy. They have those rocket launches down there, Wallops out of Virginia. If it
Hmm.
was clear, we could have seen it here. Nope, it's cloudy. It doesn't matter. When we had what was it? Was it last December? The Christmas star. You won't be able to see it again for like 1,000 years
Oh
or
yeah,
something
of
like
course.
that.
Yeah, it
I
was
wanted to
cloudy.
see that, and it was the day before and the day after was absolutely picture perfect. And all I'd have to do is step out of my door, and it would have been spectacular. But no, it's cloudy. Every time we get a celestial event or meteor shower, or anything that's really, we can never see nothing, and and then again, whenever you have these Perseid meteor showers, they're always the best viewing is at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, that ain't gonna happen, because I want to be up and see that this cat sees 4 o'clock a day, and it's not it. AM isn't it? But
Yep.
you know, you watch a lot. You see the satellites, right? That we all see going over, especially with all the SpaceX stuff that's up there. There's more stuff going through orbit now than ever before. The
Oh yeah.
atmosphere, orbit's full of stuff. But you see these, they're a satellite. Now, I was asked if you've ever seen anything like this. It's going around just a bead of light, like a star, like a satellite, moving at the regular speed that satellites go. Okay. At some point in the sky, it gets really bright. It gets bright like it's super visible. All right. I mean, you wouldn't really have to look to see this usually dim point of satellite light moving. It gets really, really bright, and then it dims right down to nothing. And you can't even find where it's going. I've seen that so many times. I didn't know if you've seen if that, if you watch in the sky as much as you do, but I see it on a regular basis. I'm wondering if is it the satellite, is it the sun reflecting? Does it get to a point in the sky where it's still picking up, the setting sun, where it gets really bright, and then after it, it moves out of range, it just, the reflection is no longer visible. But I've seen that kind of stuff a ton of times. It's not doing anything zigzagging or up and down or back. It's just moving at just a trajectory of the pinpoint of light, just like a satellite, and it'll get really bright, like a bright star, and it will dim right out. And every time I'll see that, I'll yell to my wife, and she'll come running out. And by the time she gets out there, it's gone. So of course I'm an idiot. But I've seen that more times than I've and over the years, not just something this recently with all the SpaceX stuff being up there. I'm just
Right. Right.
wondering, could that be something where the satellite is still getting some kind of reflection from the sun at the altitude that it's at, and then then it just dims to the point where you can't see it anymore. But
It's it
I've seen that several times like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very possible. I mean, I for the things I'm interested in, I'm in the worst part of the country. I love Bigfoot and I live in New York City.
And
I love sky watching. I live in New York City.
yeah,
There's just light pollution. I mean, if I see three stars in the sky at night, I'm lucky.
yeah,
Like it's so tough to see anything down here. Just with the light pollution, and I live near an airport, so there's constant. I live right near Newark Airport, 15 minutes away, so it's just there's constantly aircraft going overhead. So it's really tough for us to kind of see anything unusual because you can't see anything really. Um, we've seen a few weird things, nothing like what you've seen. My wife has this app and it's called like Radar Tracker or whatever, and it's got all the plane, like all the any plane that is overhead is supposed to be on there. And sometimes planes aren't on there. We figure they're military, but you can tell they're definitely planes. They got the navigation lights, the red and green, the flashing white lights. They're definitely planes. They don't show up on this, but even like small little private planes, helicopters, they all show up on this app and they show you the flight path. And every now and then we'll get one of those, and I'm like, it's got to be military. It's got to be something that they just don't want us to know what it is. There was one night, however, we were sitting on the stoop, and this is probably during the later days of the pandemic. We were just sitting on the stoop one night, and it looked like a star. Very bright. It looked kind of like the North Star, or just a very, very bright star in the sky, even maybe like a planet. And it's moving, and it's moving super fast, and there's no blinking lights, no sound. And she's looking on her app and she's like, there's nothing there. Like, I'm not showing anything over the sky right now. And I'm like, it could be military. And she's like, yeah, but where are the blinking lights? And it just went so fast, it just kind of crossed the sky, but it looked exactly like a star. I mean, if you've seen, what stars look like, it looked like a star, and it was big. It looked like the brightest star in the sky, and it moved very quick. And we just were like, don't know what that was. It wasn't a drone. We've seen drones, and they tend to act a little erratically, and they also have little lights on them, and you can hear them when they pass overhead. You can hear the little propellers and stuff.
yeah.
And we've had drones out there. The only other story, and I'm not going to tell the whole story because Josh and our friend Dustin, they witnessed it too. The last time we were up in the Adirondacks together, it was purple. I mean, I didn't see it when it was purple. I saw it when it turned white, but they said they saw this purple, like a purple star, a very deep but bright purple star. And they were like, what was that? And I'm looking up, and as I'm looking at it, it kind of went from purple to white, and it just looked like a star, and it was moving really fast. And again, no sound, no blinking lights. It wasn't that high up. It wasn't a satellite. It wasn't like a plane really, really high up. I mean, it looked like a star. It was bright enough to really see it clearly, but no engine noise, and up there you can hear, I mean, a plane could be really high up and you still hear the jet engines.
Right.
Because at night, as long as if you don't move, you just kind of stand still, you can hear a pin drop up there. And we heard no engine. So again, I don't know. And your theory is good. It could be a satellite just kind of catching the sun. And
That's the only thing I could think of. You know what I mean? To get bright like that, not pulsating, it just gets really, really bright, and then it dims right down to where you can't see it at all.
Yeah, and it looks like a satellite, you're saying, right?
Yeah, it has the same speed, straight trajectory as a satellite. They're going from right straight, and not zigzagging or speeding up and slowing down, just doing its thing. Just weird. I just sent you a video that I took. Forgot about this one back in 2000, around the 4th of July, 2016. I sent it messenger to you.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking now.
I was coming home one night, and I had made the right-hand turn to come off Main Street to go down to take the road to where we lived. And something caught my eye in the sky. And at first I thought it was a street light to the neighborhood that was up on the hill in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm looking at it, you can see it wasn't a street light, and it almost looked like first thing I thought it was an airplane on fire. So I ended up spinning around. I parked in the parking lot of the church. That video that you're watching is the best it's a cell phone, at the
Okay.
time in 2016. And what you see there is exactly what I saw. Again, it didn't go fast, it didn't go slow, it didn't zigzag, it didn't morph, it didn't change colors, but it looked like a little ball of fire. And even after I stopped taping it, because my arms got tired of holding the phone above my head, I watched it until it went over the horizon.
Hmm.
So I brought that home and had to show my wife that, and oh, that's good. Everybody. So of course, I posted it on Facebook, and I got ripped.
Oh yeah.
But if you read what I said on there, I said I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm saying this is what I saw already. I mean, I'm just posting what I saw. I'm not saying it's anything. But if you look at that, it almost doesn't almost look like it's on. If you blow it up, it looks like it's on fire. I thought at a very brief time, I really thought it was an airplane that was on fire, but there was no noise, no smoke. You know, uh, it was just weird, and it was something totally different,
Yeah, it's strange, definitely.
right?
Yeah. And
You know,
again, it's at night, it's a light at night. It's hard to see what it is, but
yeah.
um,
Because I even got apps on my phone. I got the Star Map app, which is really really cool. And it updates constantly. So like whenever the planets come into view, if you see a bright star in the sky or we see something, oh, that looks like a planet. I just put this map up. You aim, it hooks to your GPS. It tells you true north, south, east, west. Shows you the horizon. Shows you where all the stars are, even after they go over the horizon. It's so cool. So all you gotta do is you point your phone at that point of light, and it'll say, "Oh, that's Jupiter," or "That's
right, right.
Venus." It's a wonderful app. I've had that for a long time. And then I even had one that was called Track the Space Station. It was for the International Space Station. And I had that last year. And I had it where it was, if it said it was coming through at 7:10 at night, you'd go out there and look up and it'd tell you which way it was coming. At 7:10, there it would go right overhead. That
Right, right.
was that was cool. I don't know why I don't have that app anymore. I don't know if my phone gets rid of stuff on me all the time if I don't use it all the time. Stuff years. But that was pretty cool. But my star, you can set it up. You can set it up if you just want planets or stars, or you can, if you just want planets, that's all it'll show. It'll
Right,
show
right.
you just the planets, so you don't have a jumbled mess of, all kinds of stuff on there. And it has a night mode on it. And I've had that. It's called Sky Map. It's a free app on Play on the Play Store or whatever. And it was, but like I said, we'll look at that. Or even last night, my wife and I were taking a walk, and I didn't know if you noticed the half moon the past couple nights.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Last night, not so much, but Friday night and Saturday night, I was looking through it with those binoculars that I got, and I wish that I could have taken a picture through those binoculars because it was outstanding. You can see the craters, and it's a half moon, and you can see the shadow, and there was like a little wispy cloud going through it. And if I could have made some money if I could have got a picture of that, sold that. It was absolutely beautiful. So then last night when we were taking our nightly walk, it was cloudy. So I said, I wonder where the moon's going to be tonight, even though we can't see it. So I get my little sky map out, and it shows you right where it is, even though we can't see it. You know what I mean? So you know exactly. And even after the sun, like right now, it'll tell you where the sun is. It's obviously below the horizon, but it'll show you, how far below the horizon on the other side the sun is. It's really, really neat app.
Oh yeah, I've seen a few of those. I've had them on my phone. Because yeah, you see something up in the sky and you're kind of like, well, what is that? And oh, okay,
Right.
that's Jupiter or
Right. I mean,
Saturn.
it's a it's a planet if it's that
Yeah.
bright. You just don't know which one it is, So that way, you can remember then. What was it? A couple years ago, where they were lined up in a row, and you had like Venus and Jupiter, and everything was lined up. It was neat. Actually seen that on some of the Bigfoot shows when they were out at night doing their night research. It was
Oh
their
yeah.
night vision was picking up, and you knew exactly when that was because that's that time of year that the planets had lined up. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good theory about the satellites. I don't know what this video is that you sent me. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Um,
That's it. It's
uh,
odd and it's untold. There you go.
there you go. So before we wrap up, do you have any other weird stories you want to share, or is
I don't think just the last one. I mean, the only thing I touched on with my wife and I had seen those lights blink off, a row of 5 lights blink from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 to
Right.
nothing. Thankfully, I had a witness for that, or else that would just be another tall tale, as my wife would say. But she witnessed that one. Again, don't know. I mean, that wasn't really up in the sky. That was in a hedgerow.
Right.
That wasn't anything, that was spectacular, but it was enough to get both of our attention and both of us to see it. But yeah, I'm out there constantly. We sit out there when we have until it gets to the point where it's too cold. We'll
Hmm.
sit out. We got a little gas fireplace and sit on our patio, and I'll just get a lawn chair out, sit up in the yard, and just watch stuff. And like I said, with all the SpaceX stuff's going up constantly. You're always seeing something now.
Right. Right.
Something's flying around up there, but nothing. There hasn't been anything that other than what I've already showed you or told you. I don't know. I really would like to see something because everybody and their brother sees them, but me.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're trying to see them, you're not going to see it.
Well,
It's
it's like the
almost
Bigfoot thing too. Yeah,
exactly.
it's gonna catch you. It's just like when you see the really good shooting star. You know what I mean? You're not waiting for it. You know what I mean? It's just holy cow, there it is. And it just seems like that's something that you're privileged to see at the time.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yep.
if you're seeing it all the time, it wouldn't be any big deal. So it is
Exactly.
kind of cool when you do.
Exactly. But yeah, at the same time, you got to be out there in order to see it. You're not going to see anything
Right,
sitting in your living room. You got to
right.
kind of be out
No,
and
exactly. That's why
experience.
we are out, weather permitting. Whenever we watch very little TV in the spring and summer, as long as the weather's nice.
Hmm.
We're out until bedtime. Get out of work, have our dinner, sit outside, have a fire. 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's bedtime. But we, catch up on our shows over the weekend or whatever. But we're out there at least trying to, because our summers are so short. We try to take advantage and get them as much as we have. And it's changing now. There's a change in the air. That's for sure.
Is it cooling off up there or
Oh
not
yeah,
yet?
yeah. Yesterday was really warm, really muggy. It was low to mid 80s yesterday. Today it's just been rain all day.
Oh
60,
wow.
never got out of the 60s. Overcast. Some places are getting 2 to 3 inches of rain. We aren't that bad, but we're getting. It was a washout.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
we've had a good summer though. I can't complain. I love summer. I I sit there. I love watching you guys out there in the snow up to your knees and all that. I love seeing that when I'm sitting all wrapped up in my fireplace and I got a hot chocolate and I say, these guys are great because all I have to do is walk from my car to work or my car from my garage in the home. And unless I'm out snow blowing, I hate winter. God, I do. I hate the cold. The older I get, I ache. I don't like anything to do with wintertime. But I do enjoy watching you guys
watching us
enjoy.
out there. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if I
Yeah.
knew, I'd go with you guys if I didn't really think that I'd have a heart attack, and then you guys would be carrying me out on some kind of home built stretcher. I mean, that would probably make for a cool video, but I don't want to be the one having to get tugged out of there. But if I knew I was going to be nice and warm and eating good, yeah, I'd go with you guys. But other than that, winter, forget it. I hate it with a passion. Hate it. The hotter, the
No,
better.
we'll do an easy one with you at some point, like car camping, just because we know a few spots where we can just it's deep in there, but you just drive the car right up to the site. You just come out, put up your tent, and your car's right there. You don't have to lug the cooler. You don't have to lug any of your gear. Just put up the
Well,
kind of like when you met Josh and I at Passaico Road.
yeah, when we did that, that was such a nice time when we went there that I just had told my wife about how beautiful it was. So we ended up going the following May just because I wanted to show her.
Oh,
You know
cool.
what I mean? We took a day trip up there just to show her, and it was the black flies were holy smokes. I got introduced to black flies up there then.
Yeah.
I was wondering why when we were driving up there was people with netting over their face all the way up. Well, I found out why.
Oh yeah.
But
Black flies are terrible.
found that the campground where we had set up that night, and there was some dude sitting there on a rock reading a book. So I said, "Yeah, that's where it was." We went up past the bridge and turned around and just yeah, I love that was a lot of fun. That was good stuff right there.
Yeah, yeah. So we can do something like that. This way you're not, because even Josh and I were saying like we're kind of done with the real deep stuff. It's dangerous. It's tiring. And we've done it. We proved it.
Yeah,
And
now you don't have nothing to prove. You don't
nothing
have,
to prove anymore. No,
something that's just enjoyable.
yeah. We still do trips where there's some hiking or kayaking, and it's work, you know. But every now and then we like to just do a trip that's like just really relaxing. Just drive right up to the campsite and don't have to worry about, you know, hauling stuff in and hiking and breaking an ankle. You just pull your stuff out of the car, set up your tent, collects. I mean, you can even bring the firewood in. You don't have to worry about collecting the firewood. Even, you know, at that point, you just bring some
Yeah.
firewood in with you and just enjoy. Just kick back, eat some good food, and tell some stories.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, man. Well, again, I thank you for coming on. You're in the
No,
three.
absolutely.
You're the three timer. Um, and I'm guessing you're going to be on a lot more. We have a lot more Bigfoot stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we got a lot more. It's nice to get off that for a little bit. I kind of there hasn't
yeah,
been a whole lot going on in that. I've hashed over a lot of the stuff. A lot of I'm just it's kind of in a funk right now. The stuff that I've been seeing, the paranormal side of it's kind of, I don't know. It seems like everybody, even though they start off their shows where we're flesh and blood and this is how it is, and you have to sign a waiver, and if you start talking about that other stuff, you're out. And now everybody just seems like, well, you get more flies with honey, and your subscriptions go up if you open to a wider audience that Bigfoot woke me up in my sleep and told me to come out, and feed me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it's maddening. And I just kind of, I'm trying to, I have been off it for the past couple of weeks because I haven't found anything that's really other than what I had posted on your website there. You get a chance to either listen first, if you listen to the reading of the Cowman of Copalis,
mm-hmm.
You read the story. It's a condensed, really good story based on a true story, as they say. And then if you watch that movie, Something in the Woods, Bigfoot movies are ridiculous. I know all of them. I mean, they're other than exists. I think this exists, and this Something in the Woods. It's not top name actors by any means, but it's not ridiculous, and
That's good. Yeah.
it sticks to the story. So you got nothing going on. First, listen to the reading of that.
Okay.
And then, once you hear the story, watch the movie, and you'll see how it sticks pretty decent. It was well done.
All right. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I have them saved. I've been spending the last couple of days with my son just before he goes back to school, so we've been kind of busy doing our stuff. But I have them saved, and once I have some downtime, I'm definitely going to check those out because even Something in the Woods, like that's been on our watch list for a long time. So we got to get to that.
And I've seen, that producer, they made another one after that. It just came out last year, I believe. And I was all excited because they did such a good job with that one. And it was horrible.
Oh,
it
really?
was along the lines of the Badge, the Bible. And I was like, why even? That's such a waste of time and effort. And why would you even put that stuff out there? It was horrible. But like I said, when you're laying in bed one night, put on the reading, for the Cowman at Copalis Beach, and then watch the movie when you get a chance. It's very well done, and then it's a long old told story from back in the '60s. It was so it's
Okay, cool,
decent.
awesome,
Definitely good.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, thanks for coming on. We're gonna do more Bigfoot shows though, because I have so much I need to talk to you about, and we got to do like some 2-parters and just like talk for hours. But yeah, this was great to kind of just go a little off topic tonight and just do a little potpourri of weird stuff tonight, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little sidetrack. It's cool stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And hi, Becky. I know you're there.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure. That.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right, man. So we'll talk though. We'll set up some future episodes, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. You have a good night.
Thanks, man. You too.
Bye.
All right, bye.
We off? We off air?
No, you're still there. I'm still recording because I'm just going to do a little outro when I'm done.
Oh, I didn't want to say something I shouldn't have.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I got to laugh because I'm looking at you right now. It says odd, your head, and old.
Yeah.
Odd, old. It's perfect. I got to get a screenshot of that. Hold on. Don't move. Sit there real quick. I'm going to send you this. It's absolutely perfect. I love it. Okay, you can move now. I'll send this to you. That's beautiful.
Well, if anyone is odd and old, it's me. So
Cool beans.
All right, guys. You have a good night.
You too, my friend. We'll be talking soon.
We will.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I want to thank Scott Perry once again for being on the podcast. This is his third time on the show, and he's definitely going to be back on. We got a lot of Bigfoot stuff to talk about, but we wanted to do a little something different tonight, just some weird esoteric stuff here. So thanks for watching. Please leave some comments down below if you have any of your own weird experiences. If you want to be on the show, email me at jason@oddanduntold.com. So there you go. Odd and Untold. It's odd and AND untold.com. And I'd love to hear your stories. Until next week, we'll see you then.